Recording. All right, now we have not unlimited, but actually I think we do have unlimited.
Well, it should be if you're paying for it.
Yeah.
How much does that cost a month?
$25.
This is getting steep. I'm gonna run out of money.
We need ad partners.
Yeah, fast.
No free ads either. Besides Olivia Burson Real Estate, if you're in the Charlotte metro area. What?
Add-ons too.
Add-ons too. What's add-ons too? Tell the listener.
Cups
Cups by
by Kylie.
Kylie. If anyone needs, no free ads, but if anyone needs custom stationery, also cups, anything.
You're back.
Wedding parties, add-ons too /
logo.
Is it a rebrand to Cups by Kylie?
Well, no, Emily still participates.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if we were going through a rebrand.
Well, you didn't know what add-ons 2 was, so I had to rephrase.
Yes, I did. I just couldn't think of it.
You literally asked me, what is that?
No, I asked you so you could explain to the people listening. I know what it is.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Okay. I've used it before. I have them in my kitchen.
Spin zoned.
Yeah, spin zone. Well, welcome to the first episode of the Never Beens. I know we did the teaser and kind of explained the name, but this is Bers. We got Glanch here. We were thinking for the first episode, we're just going to kind of give a little backstory on both of our football careers, and then we'll jump into recapping, I guess, week 1 NFL and college football. There isn't really much other sports news. I know there's baseball and we like golf, so we'll talk about golf, but no tournaments are going on. So
Better Cup coming up.
Yeah, when does that start?
Next week.
The
last week.
Start on like a Thursday. Is it an all-week thing? I always forget.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
So it starts on 22nd?
Let's find out.
That's my...
the following week.
The following week? 29th?
28th, 29th, and 30th, or whatever that is. Is that right? Or 29th, 30th, and
yeah. Friday, 29th.
Okay. There we have it.
You got you at Team USA or Team Europe?
Is that a real question?
I mean, I haven't really followed. Like, obviously you're cheering for Team USA, but who's favored?
America is favored.
Heavily?
I mean, I think that's a fact, but also my opinion.
Yeah, but I'm not asking for your opinion. Obviously, we're cheering, unless you're Riggs from Foreplay cheered for Team Europe.
No, I mean, I think we have an advantage in every area.
I think they're top. I think their top. God, we could talk about this for hours. Let's not. But their top 5 or 6 match are top, if not better.
I saw something where Rory said he wants to. What was it? Might as well look.
I love how we said the focus is going to be football, and we're immediately talking about golf.
Well,
we haven't even done our intro. Apologize.
Doesn't matter.
The football fans. Yeah, they have Victor, who's been killing it.
Yeah.
Rom, Rory. Who am I missing? That's obvious. Fitzpatrick. Fleetwood. Those dudes match up with our top pretty, if not better.
Maybe.
I mean, Scheffler is supposed to be the best, but he didn't play that well.
That's what Rory said yesterday. I finally found it. If we can make this a driving, mid-iron, and putting contest, that's where our opportunity to win is. He said they want to take the wedges out of the Americans' hands. So.
Yeah, we can talk about that later in depth.
Yeah.
Neither of us know anything about golf, so I don't know why we would even break it down into that kind of detail.
Regardless,
All right, back to
you go first.
Back to Never Been's. All right,
You go first. Tell us about yourself.
Myself. All right. From Charlotte, North Carolina, born here. Went to Charlotte Latin School, kindergarten through 12th grade, which is a private school in Charlotte. Powerhouse back in the day. Not so much anymore. I don't know if anyone's followed, I guess, Charlotte's local high school. Providence Day is now nationally ranked and on ESPN and all this crap. Christian's kind of like Latin. They're gone now.
Are they?
Your boy Estep left. I don't know where he went.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he stepped down last year or this past offseason, I think. No one can handle Greer at PD. He's running it like IMG. But anyway, went there, K through 12, 3 state champs, played football clearly. Went to Wofford for undergrad, played 4 years football there. Wasn't highly recruited, obviously, since I went to Wofford. In high school,
had some opportunities, right? Elsewhere.
Yeah, so the recruiting, we can talk about it in more detail when you tell your story because it's completely different. But the recruiting process is weird. Our quarterback his name was Braden Hansen. He was I want to say top 3, definitely top 5 quarterback in the 07 high school class. And I think that was the first year they did, you were the year after, but Under Armour All-American Bowl, because it was always the Army.
Yes.
Wasn't it called the Army game or something?
Well, and then Under Armour started their own, yes.
I think 07 was the first year Under Armour did it.
I think that's right. I went to Under Armour.
Did you really?
I did, because they said they would let my coach, my high school coach, come, be on the coaching staff if I committed to the Under Armour game, which anyway, not to hijack your story. I think I made the right decision.
Do you have to pick between the Army or the Under Armour game?
Yeah, they're like the same. They it was like created to be like a like a competitive game.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember watching the Army game all the time. But anyway, the Under Armour one started, I think, 07. He was there. Julio Jones, AJ Green, I think were his receivers. I mean, it was stacked with talent.
Yeah.
Because that was back when Under Armour was top of the world, like not just starting, but kind of hot on the scene, getting a ton of like big time athletes, obviously hosting that. But yeah, he was top 5. We had every coach in America come into Latin trying to get him from. He ended up going to UNC. Butch Davis was the head coach, but Butch Davis was on our campus weekly recruiting him. That was probably what led him to go there and being local. But I mean, Greg Schiano from Rutgers would come. I don't know I forget who the coach was at Southern Cal, but I mean, he had offers from every school. I'm sure it was the same with you coming out as a top quarterback. But I mean, we would throw for these coaches. They weren't interested in me. But a couple of them, like Butch, would offer a preferred walk-on. I don't know if you had any teammates in high school get that kind of stuff. Basically, you can come join the team and we'll give you a walk-on spot, but we're not giving you any money, no scholarship.
Yeah.
So actually, they did a good job selling that to me when they were getting Braden. UNC did. So I was at the end of the journey, or I guess recruiting process. It was down to Wofford, full ride, and UNC preferred walk-on. And obviously ended up picking the scholarship route, going to Wofford, played 4 years there. Back in my era, it was still the SoCon. That's where Wofford is still. But then it was State, Georgia Southern. Who else were those were kind of us 3 were the big programs at the time. So our conference was loaded and really competitive. And the main reason I went to Wofford was everyone knows the App State upset of Michigan, which was in 06. I'm pretty sure it was the year before my senior year. Or no, I guess it was 07 because it was my senior year of high school. So when App went up to the big house and beat Michigan.
That was 2007. No, yeah, the 2007.
We'll do different trivia later. We're going to have a trivia segment, but here's a fun trivia fact. Who was, and I'm clearly giving away the answer, who was the only team to beat App State in 07?
The Terriers, the Pups. Gotta be.
For sure. The week after Michigan. And that was my official visit
really?
week. The only reason I went down
I bet
for the visit was because I wanted to watch App because they had all the hype from beating Michigan.
I bet that was electric.
Yeah, it was. Wofford doesn't get a lot of fans. Didn't when I played, still don't. But that whole stadium was packed just to watch App, and then Wofford beat him. I forget the final score, but I was like, "Damn, this is a fun atmosphere, cool school." I mean, Wofford's super small. Another fun fact: besides Presbyterian's, the smallest D1 school in the country to have a D1 sports team. But yeah, ended up going there, committed. I think I didn't commit on the visit, but not far long after that. Spent 4 years there. Ran the triple option, which I played wide receiver, so probably not the best decision on that front. How
many catches a game did you have?
Like 0 to 1, 0.3. I'd be lucky to have a target, which is crazy. My junior year, I'm pretty sure I had, at one point in the year, like 12 catches for 7 touchdowns. Something absurd. Yeah. I mean, it was run 99% of the time, so clearly the defense is just going to run cover 0, stack the box. So if we run a pass, it's press cover 0.
Yeah.
Take a shot. Yeah, spent 4 years there. No invite to the combine. After that junior year, I had, I guess because of the stats and then just being the size that I was, 6'3", having the measurables, 6'3", 210-ish, had some regional scouts show some interest. I mean, it was probably not anything past them just being assigned the smaller schools, and let's just call it South Carolina, visiting and being like, hey, do you have any players that you think, to the coaching staff, who are your players that you think could play at the next level? And our coaches promoted me, I guess, to these scouts. Anyway, no invite at the combine. After my senior year, hosted a pro day. Everyone sees the huge schools having pro days, but for like Wofford, we would only host one if the scouts told the school, like, hey, we are interested in a player. So what we did is we hosted it because of me, but we did it like a regional pro day. So it was me, one of my teammates that I played with at Wofford, and then like a guy from Furman, a guy from Newberry. Any small school, Coastal, I think, had a couple players.
Like a joint pro day. Yeah.
Exactly. Just because it's better to have multiple people working out and running across the board. Better for the scouts. Better for me, too, because I had a quarterback.
Better chance to get more exposure than some teams just say, oh, we're not going to go to Wofford's pro day this year.
Yeah. Funny story about the pro day, though. You know how you start in the weight room? So you do like weigh in, height. Yeah. I think we benched first. I'm trying to remember. Regardless, you do the bench and you do the like broad jump, vertical jump, and then you go outside and do like the 3-cone drill, 40, anything, I guess, track/field, and then you run routes for a receiver and throw, do the football stuff at the end. So we started I don't even remember what my broad jump was. It wasn't great, but I did 35.5 vertical, which was bunnies, right? For me.
Man.
When I was training, I didn't touch 34.
Adrenaline.
Yeah. Same with bench. Bench, I had 2 shoulder injuries, so I was never a strong upper body guy, especially in the weight room. I think I did 225 like 5 times one time in training, and then I hit like 8 or 9 at the pro day. So adrenaline is a thing.
Strong.
Yeah. Well, that's still not good for a receiver.
Strong.
But, anyway, that took 20, 30 minutes, go outside, run the 40, all that nonsense for like hour and a half, right? That takes forever. Then you cool down. This jet scout after the 2-hour pro day walks up. I'm like chilling with my agent or just stretching or something. He goes, "Hey, we're gonna have to go back up to the weight room. We're gonna have to re-jump. I think we got your number wrong. AKA, we don't think you can jump 35. We need to go redo that." My agent starts freaking out. He's like, "No." I was like, "No, I'll go re-jump." Like, F this dude. We go back up there. I jump 36 after the pro day. And he writes 34 for my numbers. I don't know. Yeah. Wrote 34. Agent's freaking out. And the guy just says, "Yeah, something was wrong with like the measuring thing. Like, we're just deducting 2 off that." So
seems like a very exact science there then.
Yeah, obviously I have my conspiracies where same thing happened with the 40 where they're all timing and then they take the highest time.
Yeah.
So like I went from high 4.4s to like some dude had a 4.62 or something. And that was my 40 time.
So that's what
It's like, what? Why wouldn't you average it? Or anyway,
nobody wants to be wrong. You know, nobody wants to turn in like 4.4.
They don't want to turn in, this dude that offered shot or jump 36 and ran 4.4, because then they're not going to be able to get you undrafted, which is what I did. I went undrafted. They're going to have to spend a 4th round pick on you.
Speed demon.
Yeah, which I'm not a speed demon, but I wasn't super slow, which I was assumed to be with stereotypes. Anyway, after that, went through the draft process.
What was that, 2012? Is that 2012?
Yeah, 2012 draft. So for the Panthers fans, this is where I ended up signing. That was Keekly's, our good friend Luke's draft class. He was the 1st round pick that year. So we came in together. I was undrafted. During the draft process, I'd be interested to hear yours. I had 7th round pick, 6th, 7th, late round pick, like potential, but then nothing really happened. I guess it depends on where these teams pick that position leading up. Then they just start basically recruiting you in the late rounds to sign.
Yeah.
Which you were drafted, but
it was late enough where I started getting some of those calls.
Yeah. They're like calling you. I remember the Texans called me and I was watching the draft and they had a pick coming up and I was like, "Yes, I'm getting picked."
Hey, actually, we're not going to pick you. But
hey, we're actually taking this lineman here, but we'd love for you to sign with us in an hour.
We're going to draft a different receiver right now. Once the draft ends here in a little bit, we still want you.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's like politics. But yeah, the draft ended, which I don't understand how agents with, let's call it 10 plus prospects do this in that short window after the draft. But they're fielding calls for all these players. Every team's, say each player's got 10 calls and offers from 10 teams, if not all the teams. I don't know how they manage that. But anyway, he called me and was like, "We're going to go to Pittsburgh." So I hung up and I thought I was signing in Pittsburgh. Super amped. My buddy from Wofford is from that area and a diehard Steelers fan. He's freaking out. Then like 5 minutes later, agent calls back and says, "Actually, we're going to go to Carolina," which, being from Charlotte, my brother was with me. We obviously were ecstatic about that. And I thought it was a better fit. If you look back at the Steelers receiver room in 2012, there was probably a negative chance of making that team.
Manuel.
It was Emmanuel, Antonio Brown, Mike Wallace. I want to say Martavis Bryant was drafted that year. It was loaded. Anyway, so went through camp. That was Cam's second year, Rivera's second year, I think. I can't remember exactly, but anyway, it was the Rivera era. Back then, there was 2 waves of cuts in camp, which I know they changed, and I think they went back to this. But it used to be more structured, I feel like, where it was a 90-man roster, cut to 75 after the 3rd preseason game, and then cut to 53 after the 4th. Now
Yeah.
there's only 3 preseason games.
Straight from 90 to 50. Now it just goes straight from 90 to 53.
Yeah. So back then I got cut in the first wave. Like I played 4 snaps in preseason. We had so many. We had like 15. It was the receivers coach, Fred Graves, at the time. He was only focused on the starters and stuff. He had no interest in developing, let's just call it undrafted practice squad players for the future. Ricky Prohl was the assistant receivers coach, which honestly is the only reason I had a career and got signed back. Let's call it like a year later. I'll get into that. Because he was the assistant. They ended up firing Fred Graves. And then Ricky Prohl was promoted to full receivers coach. So when I was cut, I just hung around, worked out in Charlotte, and then I ended up signing for an arena football team in Arizona, the Rattlers. So I was cut in August 2012. I think like around November, December, I committed to go play arena, which was in the spring. So I know I've talked about him to you before, but for the listeners, Willie Korn was the reason I went out there. He played quarterback at Clemson and then North Greenville. Honestly, not similar, but kind of a similar story to you. Super high recruited. He's from Spartanburg. Clemson was the only school he ever wanted to play for. I think he committed there in like 8th grade. Something insane. He was up there with like Cam, that same class, Jimmy Clausen, Cam class. Yeah. Anyway, I think he got hurt at Clemson and then transferred to North Greenville and had a pretty good career, which is a small school in Greenville, South Carolina. Anyway, we had the same agent, trained together in Charlotte post college. He didn't sign anywhere and ended up committing to go play arena that same time. So I just went with him. He called the coach. He's like, hey, can my friend come play? And he's like, yeah, he can come compete in camp. So honestly, I didn't even have like a locked roster spot. So I went out there in February, I think, of 2013. Did training camp. Willie, 1 week into training camp, left. Got a coaching offer back at North Greenville, where he played for the coach he played under, which he always wanted to be a coach, which now he's basically the OC, I think, at Liberty. So he's been with that same coach. I forget the guy's name. Anyway, clearly I was like, yeah, this is what you want to do. So go ahead. I'll just hang out by myself out in Phoenix. Made the team. Honestly, the whole arena AFL I was getting paid like cash under the table. I don't know if we should be saying that on here, but it was like a stat. I got stashed on IR, but only for a purpose of like hiding me for roster purposes. It was like practice squad, but there wasn't a rule to it. It was super weird. Yeah. We were loaded, though, at receiver. I didn't even deserve to play. We had some beasts. And the quarterback, do you know his name? Nick Davila.
I don't think I know that name.
He's a lefty, played at Cincinnati. He's older. Dude, besides you, he threw the best ball of all time. And it was perfect. Wow. I don't think the reason he probably didn't make it in the league is, I'm assuming, arm strength. But in arena, all you have to do is touch pass everything. It was like catching a balloon.
Right on the money.
Yeah, it was just like the easiest thing to catch. Perfect accuracy.
Nice for a wideout.
Yeah. But anyway, I was there half the season, and then Ricky Prohl hit me back up to invite me to the rookie mini camp. So for all those listening, here's a nuance that you might not know, or you might, depending how much closely you follow the NFL. Post-draft, obviously you have your draft picks. What I was, undrafted, you're actually given a contract that you sign, so you're on the 90-man roster. But that's only, 20 guys, tops, from draft picks and that?
Yeah.
Maybe about 20. You can't really do a full mini camp or practice with that. So what they do is they fill the roster, per se, for this like 2-3 day mini camp with tryout players. So they're competing for a potential contract.
Yeah.
Sometimes
I did rookie mini camp, not to interrupt, but I did rookie mini camp my my 4th year out of college, I did rookie minicamp in Carolina, actually, 2017.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Because they needed a quarterback.
Yeah. So it doesn't have to be rookies. You just have to have not gotten a credit season. But yes, there's
that.
But also guys so that they can actually run plays and fill out essentially a team for a weekend.
Yeah. So I was back. They actually, what's weird, that year's 2013 minicamp, my old teammate at Wofford he was a safety at Wofford, transferred to Sam Houston State and played receiver. His name was Trey Diller. He's actually from Texas. I don't know if you know that. What'd you say?
I've heard of Trey Diller.
Have you really?
Yeah, I think so.
So he was undrafted receiver signed by the Panthers. And technically what they do is you don't sign that contract till after the minicamp. So they're going to evaluate everybody there. Obviously the draft picks are staying. But if they like one of the tryout guys better than the guy they signed undrafted in quotes, they'll just they'll take back the contract and just give it to the other guy. And they'll cut the undrafted guy, but they never actually signed him. So I did, because I was in football shape. I was mid-season in arena. All these other guys were just training padless, not football. Obviously, they're training and working out, but I was in football shape. I crushed the minicamp, and they ended up giving me the contract and cutting Trey, which sucked because we were boys and played at Wofford together. Super good dude, but it's just kind of part of the business. Anyway, re-signed. Then OTAs start, go to camp. I ended up getting cut again that camp, but they signed me back to practice squad for the 2013 season. And that was Steve Smith's last season. Was
Ricky Prohl still? Was he the head receivers coach now?
Yeah. So he was the head coach. He was honestly a big part of that. Bringing me back. Shula was the OC who he liked me a lot too, which both of them were big reason I even had a career in Carolina. Lance Taylor as well, who ended up being my receivers coach my last year. But anyway, 13, cut, practice squad the whole year, never got activated. We lost divisional round to the Niners, which sucked. We were really good that year. 14, I finally made it out of camp. First year, my third attempt. 15, camp, cut. Super Bowl year, cut, practice squad. Koch got hurt week 1, or I think it was week 2 against the Texans at home. So I re-signed and played a lot, actually, active that season. That was the Super Bowl year, the best year we had. Clearly we came up short, but 16 made it, but got cut randomly 1 week during the season and then re-signed like 3 days later. It was something. 17 cut, but it was like my shoulder injury settlement. So I was out the first half of the season, re-signed when they traded KB to Buffalo. And then that was my last year. So I only played for one team, and 2 if you count arena. But my whole career was kind of up and down in Carolina.
What was the name of that Arizona team? You may have mentioned that earlier, but I forgot already.
The Rattlers. I don't think the Rattlers.
Oh, yeah.
Like a snake. They won the championship that year. So they technically... Well, I played in a game and was there more than half the year, so they should give me a ring.
Did you?
Right?
You need to go, yeah, sure. Why not?
Even though I don't think they're still a team. But yeah, that's my never. I mean, I'm a never been, right? Never quite made it.
Kind of, not really.
I made it, but I didn't make it.
I mean, hopefully compared to some of the people some of the friends that we've made along the way that, hopefully we can coerce into coming on here and talking a little bit about their story, then yeah.
It's definitely a different story than
no doubt.
Some of these other people who,
well, as mine is too. And I think that's kind of the, the beauty of the game of football. And, also, like you mentioned, that guy Trey Dillard. It's there's some great players and great guys that just because of numbers and just because of where opportunities lie, or hell, even after the draft, guys make a decision to go to a certain team and they end up not getting a shot. And I think that's just kind of, unfortunately, there's a very finite amount of spots for people, and so some great players, guys that have unbelievable talent, don't make it for whatever reason. Some of it self-inflicted, some of it totally out of their control.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said earlier, who knows if I ended up sticking with Pittsburgh, one, probably cut because of how deep they were. And then I wouldn't have met Prohl, or maybe they had a coach that believed in me there, but maybe not. And then the career is over. Right. So
yeah, it's interesting, some of those decisions, as you look back where they would have taken you. I got more than a few during my career, certainly.
Yeah. And a lot of it's those kind of variables, but also injury related, right? Which
Absolutely.
you could go into, but I was lucky enough. I had some injuries, some dings, but I was lucky enough to stay healthy in training camp and preseason for the most part. Obviously, I got hurt 17, but early in the career, if you get dinged up, if I got hurt like I did in 17, in 13, that's
probably
it.
Yeah.
Never. Yeah, you're not getting another opportunity, and that happens all the time with some of these guys, and it sucks.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right,
my turn.
Yeah, let's jump into Glanch's career, because honestly, I know it, but I don't even know some of it. This might take a couple hours.
Well, that's what I'll try and I've gotten pretty good at I can rattle off the order of. I'll dive in.
We want all of it. We want all the juice, all the tea.
I grew up. I was actually my dad played pro ball, and so growing up, football was kind of all I knew. My first memories, my first memories are watching my dad on TV, because I did not like going to the Chargers games, because every time they scored, they shoot off that cannon, and it scared the hell out of me. I didn't want any part of it, so I'd stay home, watch the games on TV, and throw the ball up to myself in the living room, chase after it, go catch it. And, my dad played for 11 years. He was a backup for Dave Craig in Seattle, Jim Kelly, and he was sort of the third guy in Buffalo, Jim Kelly and Frank Reich, and then spent 2 years backing up Stan Humphries in San Diego.
See, I didn't know that. I didn't know San Diego.
Just during the season. We had moved to Texas by that point because he knew he was about to be done playing. But,
is your dad from Texas?
No, California.
What? Oh, yeah, that's right. What made him go to Texas?
Good question. They just were looking for a place to move, and Austin was kind of not anymore, but it was a smaller city back then that people really seemed to like, and I think they were kind of looking for a place to settle down, and went down and found a house in Austin and moved.
What year was that?
94 or 5, 90, I think.
So you were what?
I was 3, I think, 3 or 4. Yeah.
Griff, your younger bro, who's a tree.
He was born in Austin, so that means it must have been 94.
Okay. Your brother's a good example of what we were talking about earlier.
No doubt. He's a far better athlete than me. Big, huge.
He's a tree.
Mauling receiver / tight end that, obviously you never know. I love to tell people he was going to make it. You never know, but he just got hurt in his back. He's, he had to have 2 surgeries on his back, and just terrible, in the grand scheme of things. Obviously getting to play college football is something not many people get to do, but had to give up football in college and really never got to make an impact when he was at TCU. So football is all I knew. My parents moved to Lake Travis when I was in first grade. Lake Travis was a small town back then. Now it's everyone probably has heard of Lake Travis just because of guys like Baker Mayfield, guys like Garrett Wilson.
Garrett Gilbert.
Really big time players come out of that school over the last 15 years now. Like I said, grew up playing football, always wanted to be a quarterback. And then my best friend growing up, Cade McCrary, his dad coached at Texas. And I had no real affinity for Texas. Not being from there, my dad played at Cal. It was not, but when I became friends with Cade and got to go be around the Texas program, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I fell in love with it. Texas was, I got pictures. I think I'm 7 years old with Major Applewhite, and I got ear to ear smile or ear to ear grin on my face, and just, yeah.
That's a name I haven't heard in a while.
So I fell in love with it. Fortunately for me, as I got older, I was a fairly big time recruit. I kind of had my pick of where I wanted to go. Well,
at what age did you start getting recruited? Was it the Willie?
Officially after my sophomore year,
Well, that's normal.
Yeah, I didn't really ever have any official talks before that. But like I said, I was always around the program, so I knew Greg Davis and Mac Brown very well from a fairly young age. Anyhow, so got the chance to go to Texas. We did not win 3 state championships in high school. We only won 2 at Lake Travis. So
ours were private school.
Yeah.
Ours were not, and it was in North Carolina. But what I was going to say is, was there anyone else? Did you talk with Cal? Your dad want you to talk to Cal? Was there anyone else in the running at all?
Cal offered late, and I actually liked Cal. Cal offered late, though. I was already committed by the time they offered, and they started recruiting me a little bit further down the road. And by that point, it was too late. There was no chance of me. Regardless, there was not really any chance of me going anywhere else. But by that point, I was committed, and there was no chance of me, going back on my word and even thinking about opening back my recruiting process up. So it was, for me, recruiting process may have been very different, but it was literally like I was going to Texas when they offered, and that was the end of it. And that was pretty early on. I didn't even take another official visit. Texas was it. So
mine was kind of, not to interrupt you, but to go back to mine, I didn't say this earlier. It was always Wofford. They offered a full ride. No one really else. UNC preferred walk-on.
Yeah.
Obviously, we had other schools there for Braden and other stuff, but no real combos, no offers. But what you would notice is, let's say, Glanch, you're a top receiver that Vanderbilt, for specific example, really wanted, and then he ends up committing to Texas. They start scrambling. Oh, crap. We didn't get any of these receivers that we thought we'd get at least one of them. Then they start going into the archives like, oh, this Burson kid, let's offer him. They start scrambling. So I got a call from App, never talked to them one time. They never showed any interest. Hey, one call, full ride. We want you at App. It's like, okay.
Stepp. Justin Stepp. You know that name? I think he was maybe coaching at App back then.
What? Lance Taylor was the receivers coach.
It was Lance. He was there with Lance.
Really?
Yeah.
I forget who called. It may have been that guy. Vanderbilt is the worst. They called me for the first time 30 minutes after I called Wofford to verbally commit, and they offered me a full ride. Theirs was different though. Earl Bennett. Do you remember that receiver? Yeah. Played for the Bears and I think someone else.
Yeah.
May have broken SEC receiving records with Cutler. He left for the NFL a year early, and they didn't anticipate it. So it opened up a spot, and it was so late they didn't get anyone because they weren't actively recruiting receivers yet.
Yeah.
So they offered me, and I really wanted to switch to go there. My mom was like, no, you verbally committed. I was like, Mom, it was 30 minutes ago. I'll just call him back. But it only happens for a reason, right?
That's too funny. It's just a crazy process.
Back to what you were saying.
No, anyway, so I went to Texas. I don't know, it's somewhat, I guess, well known. I Ended up playing in the national championship as a freshman when Colt McCoy got hurt on the 5th play of the game.
Were you a true freshman in that
I
game?
was, yeah.
Were you
Couldn't
playing?
find my.
Were
What's
you
that?
redshirting?
No,
How does
I
that
was.
work?
I had played a little bit. I mean, I think I had like 20 pass attempts on the year, so I played like in the first game where we're blowing whoever we were playing out, Louisiana Monroe, I think.
Can't you retroactively? I might be butchering these rules, but if you play like a very small amount of
I don't think not anymore. Or I'm sorry, not back then. You can now, but not back then.
Well, now you can just play like 9 seasons and no one cares.
Yeah. But anyway, I had played a little bit, went in, played that game. First half, not great. Second half, actually had a chance. Started. We were just talking about this last night, actually. The quarterback goes down. You just need to look for the best player on the field. Well, I just started looking for Jordan Shipley every single play, and I'm probably threw him the ball, I don't know, 15 plus times in the second half.
This is all right. So obviously, this is the first time I ever watched you or heard of you. Was that game? I have a different memory of the performance because I feel like you can get into this, but people claimed you didn't do well considering the circumstances. I thought you were swagging. I was like, I love this freshman kid. Probably because Shipley was my favorite player, and you were just slinging him the rock every play.
Well, yeah, I mean, by that point, it was like we got to get something on. This is not great, but I was 1 for 10 at halftime. So
when did you come in, or when did McCoy exit?
5th play of the game.
So you played the whole game.
Alabama tried a fake punt, didn't convert on like their own 25. So we got the ball. We're like instantly in scoring position. Colt gets first down. They call like speed option or something, and Marcel Darius comes right through the middle and just
deletes him,
whacks Colt right in the shoulder, and I couldn't find my helmet. I was standing on the sideline. I'm looking up at the jumbotron. I got my hat on, and all of a sudden, all the coaches are screaming for me. I mean, it was like straight out of Friday Night Lights when Boobie Miles got hurt. We actually had to burn a timeout.
So it was similar to like DA when Cam would go down. DA's throwing his dip can to the side, and
except I didn't have a dip in. I learned a lesson there though. I started wearing my helmet on the sideline from that point on.
You legitimately couldn't find it.
No, I ran to the wrong bench. In fact, Coach Muschamp was talking with the defense, and I ran back towards their bench, and I didn't know where I was on the field, obviously, because like both sides of the whatever bench, and my helmet was underneath the bench where the quarterbacks would sit, and I'm like, move, where is it? And of course, I'm looking in the wrong spot. Finally, go down, find it. Timeout. We gotta talk things over.
You dumbass freshman.
Well, I know. But anyway, things did not start off well.
So he got hurt. Was it 3rd and whatever?
No, it was like a first down play. So I went in and it was 2nd down, and I think we called a handoff, and then we actually got a couple first downs. We ended up getting a field goal, but we were like on the 1 yard line. We just couldn't punch it in and kick like a 20-yard field goal. So
did Mac or whoever called the plays just call conservative?
I think
or did you attempt to pass or anything on that?
I'll have to go back and look. I attempted a few passes. I think maybe that was probably, who knows, that was probably where my one completion in the first half came. After that, things just went downhill. But anyway, second half, we're down 24-6 and ended up finding a way to kind of get it back. We went down and scored 2 touchdowns. Like I said, I was throwing the ball to Jordan every play, and it's 24-21. We got the ball with 3 minutes left, and I get hit from behind on a rush on a blitz on a pressure that it was a funky pressure, but I missed it and got hit from behind, fumbled. Bama scores, game over.
Was that the Darius?
No, the Darius one was before halftime. I don't want to talk about that. got stiff-armed into oblivion.
I think
on a shuttle pass.
I think every human outside of a handful would have had the same result trying to tackle that monster.
Yeah, I couldn't even reach my arms halfway around him.
A lot of us wouldn't even attempt to tackle that dude.
Well, I probably shouldn't have, at least not, up at his shoulders. I probably should have tried to take his legs out, but 18-year-old me wasn't very bright. So anyway, ended up winning. I'll go through the rest of my college career somewhat quickly, but I ended up winning the job, obviously, my sophomore year, and we were excuse me, we were not very good. I didn't play very good.
Were y'all supposed to be good coming off?
We were preseason ranked top 5. We were, and ended up going 5-7, missing a bowl game for the first time in 15 years for Texas. Maybe it was the first time not winning 10 games in like 10 years. It was not a good season. And
you were the how many years after the Vince Young natty?
That was 6 years later, probably.
Okay, so you were kind of the tail end of that Texas run.
Yeah, Colt had taken them to 2 BCS games during his 4 years playing. So It was not like Texas had, yes, but it was obviously. So didn't play very good. And then the next year I ended up winning the starting job again. Mac opened it up, and it was myself and Case McCoy and Connor Wood, I think, and David Ash kind of competing for it. Then I ended up winning the starting job again in camp. First game, tore my labrum. Second game, got benched and booed off the field, and that was probably the low point football-wise for me that I can remember. That was really tough. Obviously, I talked a lot. I talked already about I was such a huge Texas fan. I really just wanted to succeed for them. I say for them, for myself, obviously, but like I love Texas. I wanted to win as a fan too. So by that point, I decided it was time to transfer and just start over. I didn't really know where football was going to take me. I wasn't, I obviously had dreams of playing in the NFL and didn't necessarily know if that was still a viable option, but I just knew I needed to start over and go somewhere else. So I ended up just going right up the road to Dallas and SMU. I went up and took a visit there and met with June. It was kind of similar deal. I had explored some other things right after I got my surgery, but
how does that work? So you got hurt first game and bench second game. Did you immediately have surgery, or did you wait till after the season?
No, I immediately had surgery. So I ended up just deciding, like, if I want to be able to play next year, I need to get this surgery right now.
And then how does transferring work at that?
So what I was going to do is transfer at Christmas and go up and kind of start learning the offense and get familiar with SMU. When I was in an exit meeting with my guidance counselor at UT, and he was like, "Hey, this may not like be realistic, but like I know if you graduate, you can play right away, right?" And I was like, "Well, yeah." And he goes, "Well, I put together like a little, spring semester potentially for you here. If you stay, and you can actually it would actually work if we take 27 credit hours this next spring semester. You can graduate and just transfer right away."
That's all.
Yeah. So it was like, it was like 2 semesters in one, but I also wasn't playing football. So it was like all I did, I just saw as a full-time student for the first time, rehabbing my shoulder. I still went and saw the trainers there and would do my rehab and stuff. And then I would just go to school all the time. And
in Austin.
Yeah, I ended up staying in Texas. I called up June and I was like, "Hey, is this like, what do you guys think about this?" And they were like, "Well, yeah, we can get you for 2 years then."
27, isn't that 9 classes?
It is, yeah. Two of them were online. So obviously, and that was kind of the beginning of online classes where there wasn't really Zoom meetings. It was just, turn in papers or, virtual homework, whatever it is. And then one of them was actually, I had to get credit as like it was like a coach, basically. I went and helped this guy coach this golf class. So I would just take my clubs out to the range every day, and he would ask me to do something for, 30 minutes. Hey, shag balls while I'm teaching these kids to chip. And then he'd like, "All right, you're good. Just go, go practice." So I basically, hardly counted as a class, if at all. So that left 6 like real classes, like Tuesdays and Wednesdays. I remember going to school from like I was in high school again. It was like 8:30 to like 4 o'clock, and I was in class just like all day.
Every day.
But other than that, not too bad. So I did all that though, so I could play right away. And obviously, I transferred up to SMU, and I would say, I think it was a great decision because it ultimately led to me getting drafted. June is awesome. Can't say enough about how awesome he was for me as a player, and obviously, he's been so successful as a coach for so long. I kind of took a few games for me to like get my rhythm back. I like I said, I hadn't played very well at Texas, and I also hadn't played now by that time in a season plus 10 games.
So this was your senior year. Did you play 2 years at SMU or just one?
Junior year, because I got that year back for a redshirt year.
Gotcha. So you played 2 years at SMU.
Since I only played, yeah. So
was your first year in the league then 14?
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense now.
Yeah.
All right. We can get into that later.
So anyway, obviously I'm getting kind of long-winded here before I even get to the meat of
We're still in college.
Yeah. But ended up playing well enough to give myself a chance to get drafted. And our draft process was similar. Only difference really is that I kept getting late round to undrafted type grades from coaches and teams, and the Rams just drafted me in the 6th round. I had started getting calls like you were talking about where teams are like, hey, we're not going to draft you, but we'd love for you to sign with us.
Yep.
I had actually gotten fed up of watching the draft by Saturday afternoon, and I went in the other room and I was watching the Players Championship golf tournament.
Golf is life. Golf is life.
While the draft was going on, and then the Rams called, and I ran back in the other room so I could had a bunch of friends and family over so I could see my name across the screen. Obviously, a little bit of a dream come true and a awesome moment to get to see your name come across the draft ticker.
Where'd you watch it? At home or
just at my house? Yeah.
At your house.
Yeah. So anyway, Rams drafted me. Myself, Sam Bradford, Sean Hill, and Austin Davis were the 4 quarterbacks initially there. Sam ended up, and there's a whole new ball game for me. Sam was coming off an ACL tear
against us.
He ended up tearing it again that preseason.
But the original one, he got deleted at Bank of America. I'm pretty sure.
Really?
He tore ACL here the year before.
Yeah. That guy had some bad luck. He was really fun to watch throw the ball, but just was always injured. Anyway, I spent a little bit of time in St. Louis. Sam tore his ACL. They brought in Case Keenum. And then I got released midway through the season about. And I was actually home for 2 months around that time. I went and did a few workouts.
Were you active?
No, I was on the practice squad.
Okay, so you got cut first.
Got cut, brought back on the practice squad, and then cut again about week 7 or something like that.
So kind of full circle back to what we talked about earlier with the rookie mini camp and stuff.
Yeah.
Not even for the people listening, not even the draft picks sometimes are guaranteed a roster spot, especially the late round picks.
Right. Yeah.
You do get guaranteed money, but it's like pro rata signing bonus. Once you get that, let's say it's $20,000 or something, whatever it was back then, it may have been more for you in 6 rounds.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's but for those teams, it's somewhat of a small investment. So for example, what happened was I think the Rams wanted to keep me around, especially not for necessarily 2014, but for the future. But we played the Chiefs, and like 7 defensive guys got injured.
Yep.
And I was the 4th quarterback. So, I mean, you don't really need 4 quarterbacks. So I was the casualty so that they could find somebody and fill out a roster for the next week. And, when you're dealing with a team of only 53 guys and trying to, mix and match it to be able to have enough to dress on game day, sometimes those things happen. It's, you kind of a casualty of, a position that doesn't even affect you getting hurt or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it happened. Remember I was talking about 16 when I got cut for one game. That was what happened. Was our D line was dinged up. They had to bring up, I think it was Brian Cox. I forget who they signed from their Panthers practice squad. Cut me because I was the fifth receiver at the time, I think, maybe even sixth. I don't remember. But I remember watching the Falcons game, just had brunch with my now wife. It was a nice weekend. And then I re-signed on Monday.
Yeah. It's just it's like, I don't know, it's all over the place. So anyway, I'm at home for 2 months, go do a couple workouts.
Like with teams?
Yeah,
Teams
I
brought you
went
in?
to work out in New England. I went to work out in Tampa Bay. Let's see. And then week 16 comes around, and Rams actually called back, and they were like, hey, we want to re-sign Garrett and then sign him to a futures contract once the season ends. Well, my agent called up the Patriots and maybe one of the other teams I had worked out and said, hey, you guys worked out Garrett and you showed some interest in him. Do you still have any interest in signing him? Because otherwise he's going to sign back with the Rams. And they were like, yeah, we'll sign him. And so then it was kind of up to me, like, do I want to go back to St. Louis that I knew or go to New England, get to see a new environment? And I made the decision. Again, this is one of those deals. I don't know if it was a good decision looking back. I mean, I think it was. I ended up getting to, spend a lot of time in New England, and I ended up obviously getting the Super Bowl out of it. But the guy who replaced me in St. Louis was there for like 3 years and was on the roster. So
Who was it?
Sean Mannion from Oregon State.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, signed with New England. Spoiler alert, I just mentioned it. Rode Tom Brady's coattails to a Super Bowl title. Got the ring somewhere. Right?
That was
14. Yeah, that was 14. So it was the year they beat the Seahawks on the Malcolm Butler interception.
Wait, so you signed in week 16 with New England?
Yeah.
Oh, so you signed late, and that was the Super Bowl win.
Yeah.
So you were there for like a month.
I was there for 2 months, but yeah, basically
before
5 weeks and then 2 weeks before the Super Bowl. But yes, basically yes, like 5 games.
Crazy.
So anyway, win the Super Bowl. Next year, Brady gets suspended for Deflategate. And
for 15.
Yeah, and I get cut. Like a few days later, I think they wanted a veteran to be Garoppolo's backup for when Tommy was having a.
How long did he get suspended for?
4 games. 4? But then it got repealed. He appealed it, and they were like, okay, well, so he didn't even end up getting suspended that year. But I got released, signed by the Lions.
When were you released? Out of camp or
after OTA 9, like in May.
In May, okay.
Got claimed by the Lions off waivers. So I went and did mini camp in Detroit. I was there for like 3 practices. Had no clue what was going on. I'm out at practice. They've all been going through 10 OTAs. I have no clue, how to call a play in this offense or what the protections are or anything. And then they're like, okay, turn in your iPad. We'll see you in the fall for camp. Thanks for being here. It's like, oh, great. This will be awesome summer. Like, I have no clue anything about this offense. I think they let me keep my iPad, but like there was like, at first they were like, no, you have to turn it in. And I was like, I have no chance of learning this offense. You guys got to help me out. So
it's like looking at an algebra textbook, but no one taught you anything. It's like,
we'll make an exception. So I ended up getting to keep my iPad and take it with me for a month, to report back in July. This is 2015. Ended up not getting much playing time. I played 1 series in the first preseason game and then didn't play in preseason 2 or preseason 3. And like you were saying, I got released at those first cut downs. I was hoping to play a lot in the 4th preseason game and kind of see where that took me. And, maybe it opens up a chance somewhere else, or, I didn't know if there was a spot there in Detroit because I was the 4th guy.
Yeah.
Well, I went home for a week and I really wanted to go. They had Dan Orlovsky and Kellen Moore there. And Kellen ended up getting released. He thought he was going to make the team. He ended up getting released and deciding to leave and go to Dallas to go be on the practice squad there. But similar to what happened with your college commitment, 30 minutes prior, I had committed to going to sign with the Oakland Raiders to be on their practice squad.
And when was this? 2015 season?
Yeah, 2015 season.
Like right after cuts, like leading up to week 1?
Yeah. So the Raiders were like, hey, we want to sign you to our practice squad. So I'm like, all right, well, I told them, I was like, I really want to go back to Detroit. I will have an answer for you as soon as possible, because I was waiting to see what Kellen was going to do, because I was going to go back to Detroit if Kellen left or made the team and they needed, they wanted a practice squad guy. Anyway, I called my agent and I was like, I really want to go back to Detroit. I don't want to go start over again. And he's like, dude, you told Oakland you're going. Like, sorry, like there's, that we just can't do that. So I was like,
you hadn't signed anything.
No, but he was like,
look bad. It would look
he
bad.
was like, that'd be in bad faith. I was like, all right, I get it. Like, that sucks, but I get it. I even have actually texts from Dan Orlovsky saying, dude, Kellen's leaving. You got to come back. Too late. Sorry. So anyway, so I signed with Oakland. I'm there for a year. The next corner gets drafted. I get released, and I call up. I thought I was trying to stay ready to play, and I decided, as the summer goes on and nothing's happening, maybe I ought to try and just do something. So I'd call up my old high school coach, Coach Morris, who's now the head coach at SMU, and obviously where I played. And I was like, hey, can I just come help out? And he told me I could not coach, but I could come basically be an analyst. So I kept throwing. I tried to stay in shape, tried to, stay ready just in case. Well, the whole season goes, I say the whole season, week 16, Derek Carr breaks his leg. And so the Raiders obviously had Matt McGloin, who I had played with, and then Connor Cook.
Wait, not to interrupt, Matt McGloin back to rookie minicamp, that 2013 rookie minicamp that I made
was there in Carolina.
Was my quarterback for that rookie.
Really?
Minicamp. Yeah.
Sorry. Well, he ended up signing in Oakland and then made the team and did a really nice job for himself. He was a really smart, kind of like a smart, scrappy player.
Penn State?
Yep.
Yeah.
So anyway, Derek gets hurt, and then Matt gets hurt the next week. So the Raiders are like, well, we need somebody to potentially back Connor up for this playoff game. So they call me.
This is 2016 playoffs?
Yeah. The Raiders played the Texans. Well, Matt ends up being healthy enough to play, but not start, I guess, it was kind of a strange scenario. So I ended up just staying on the practice squad. I was going to be activated to play, but I ended up not. So I just went there for 1 week on the practice squad, 1 week of practice. Come back home, spring goes, nothing's happening. I think maybe I'm done playing football, and I'm about to take a full-time job with SMU actually as a coach when the Panthers call. And
let's go.
I was actually standing over the printer printing out coaches' scripts for spring practice, and my agent calls me and he's like, hey, the Panthers want to sign you. And I'm like, first of all, what? Like, the Panthers want to sign me. I haven't spoken to the Panthers. I don't even – well, I guess Ken Dorsey had remembered – he had worked me out before the draft 4 years prior, and maybe I made a positive impression. I don't know, and just never got the chance to connect. And he was like, while Cam was rehabbing from a shoulder injury, he was like, hey, I got a guy we can bring in. And Dave Gettleman gave me a chance. And so obviously came in 2017. That's when I met you.
Where did I meet you?
Well, twice. You met me twice is where you met me. Bers trying to,
all right,
be a nice guy, and walks up and introduces himself to me. I tell him my name. And then 15 minutes later, he, I don't know, I guess I don't have a very memorable face. He walks right back up to me and introduces himself to me again as if I'm a different new, scrawny fella.
No, that was the confusing part is you introduced yourself. I was like, what's up, Bers? You're like, Garrett. I was like, what position are you? Because you're a big dude. I thought maybe tight end or quarterback, honestly. And you're like, quarterback. I'm like, oh, nice. Good to meet you, man. My knowledge of quarterbacks in the weight room leading up to that was Cam on a Stairmaster or with Gooch in the corner doing whatever he's doing, like one-on-one, like custom lifts, right? And then DA, who's waving a bowling pin near the training room.
Doing yoga.
Doing like with a dip in, like not doing anything. And then Joe Webb, who's a monster, who's like squatting with Jay Stu and the lineman. So then you come And then later in the lift, you're benching with me and I'm not very strong, but I had never seen a quarterback do the actual lift. So I'm like, who's this guy? Because we had a bunch of
new. I'm just trying to make my way, man.
Yeah, but we had a bunch of new faces that time of year, right? Like,
yeah,
you got draft picks, you got undrafted guys, you got new free agents. So I'm like, hey, man, what's up? Introduce myself again. You're like, dude, I just met you 10 feet over there like a minute ago.
I'm surprised I said anything because I'm pretty non-confrontational. I figured I
No, you said
typically I would have just been like, yeah, I'm Garrett.
No, you're like,
ignored the fact that
no,
you're a dumbass.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, dumbass, we just met.
But anyway, so obviously that's where you and I met. Ended up taking advantage of that opportunity. And I say, I still got cut, but I got brought back on the practice squad. And then a few weeks later got elevated to the active roster and stayed as the third quarterback the rest of that season. I've been taking way too long, so I'll kind of speed things up. But the next year, I ended up losing the backup job to Taylor Heineke in 2018. Was back home again, and at that time I say back home, we were living in Charlotte at that time, so we just stayed in Charlotte. And I was about to go play in a spring league, the Alliance of American Football, and Cam got hurt, and then Taylor got hurt in his first start. And so once again, there I was last week of the season. The Panthers needed a backup quarterback, and who were they going to call was me. So I went and backed up Kyle Allen, who had been on the practice squad. Kyle played great in that game, took advantage of his opportunity against the Saints. And then he hurt his shoulder early in the fourth quarter. And so my first NFL action 5 years into my career in 2018 was playing in a meaningless Week 17 game against the Saints, finishing out the game where we were up by 3 scores. And so anyway, so after the game, I said, hey, thanks for the opportunity, guys. I still want to go play in the spring league. So I went and signed with the Orlando Apollos, coached by Steve Spurrier. Played in 8 games for them before the league ran out of money and folded just before the playoffs. And right after that, signed with the Cleveland Browns. They gave me a chance, and I got to go up there and become teammates with Baker Mayfield, who's a good buddy of mine, who went to Lake Travis I mentioned earlier, and I'd known Baker for forever. Ended up making the team in 2019 and backing Baker up for that whole year. 2020, the Browns hired Kevin Stefanski as a coach. They brought in Case Keenum to be Baker's backup, and I got released, brought back on the practice squad during COVID year. And then 5 weeks later, Dak broke his ankle, and the Cowboys needed a quarterback to sign. So they signed me. During that year, you had to go through like a 6-day onboarding process. Basically, like if you left a bubble of a team and got on a plane. So when I got on a plane from Cleveland to Dallas, that I guess left the bubble, or maybe it was just because it was going from team to team. So I had to spend 6 days living in a hotel in Frisco with not really any access to offense or anything like that. I could just watch the meetings on and be sent a little bit of like material and study on my own. 3 weeks later, Andy Dalton gets COVID, and I am starting a game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, obviously it's a crazy league, and just, kind of another example of that. Ended up, playing against the Steelers. We played well, had a chance to win, ended up getting beat at the end.
They were undefeated at the time, weren't they?
They were undefeated, yeah.
They're like 10-0 or 9-0. They were like the top team in the league.
Yeah, we were not playing very good at the time, but we, again, like, you never know in the NFL, and we played great that day, ran the ball really well. The defense played great, and we had a chance to win late in the game. Obviously didn't get the job done. Andy comes back, starts the rest of the season, and I back him up the rest of the way. 2021, I ended up losing the backup job to Cooper Rush, and now I have a few options as I've sort of played a little bit now. a few teams reach out to want to sign me to the practice squad. Well, I decided that New England, familiar place, was the place I wanted to go. Signed with New England, end up staying on the practice squad all year there until the end of the season, when basically every player on the Washington football team, I can't remember if they were the football team at the time, not the Commanders, post Redskins days, gets COVID. So Ryan Fitzpatrick has gotten hurt. Taylor gets COVID, and Kyle Allen gets COVID as well. And so they don't have any quarterbacks active. So this is a Thursday night. They're playing the Eagles on Sunday afternoon. The Patriots are playing on Saturday. So we had finished up practice for the week. We practiced Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's Thursday night. I'm having a cold beer watching the Thursday night game. And all of a sudden my phone's in the other room. All of a sudden I've got 20 missed calls. My agent's called me 5 times. My dad's called me because my agent couldn't get a hold of me, tried to get a hold of my dad. And Coach Rivera and Scott Turner have called me, who I played for in Carolina. And so that's where
there's a theme here. If people have noticed, you mentioned Kyle Allen and Heineke several times on this.
Yeah.
So
as well as, Ron Rivera, and then multiple members of the front office there who went from Carolina to Washington.
Yep.
So anyway, they needed a quarterback. So they sent a plane. I always get confused by geography up in the Northeast. They sent a plane up to Boston to get me, fly down to Washington, or to, Andover, wherever that is. And
private jet?
What's that?
They send you the private jet?
PJ, yeah.
PJ, wow.
Flew to Washington with my wife and infant daughter at 11 p.m. on a Thursday night. Get everything set up in the hotel Friday morning, go in and practice Friday afternoon to play a game on Sunday.
Didn't it get
Fortunately, the NFL calls a timeout on that and moves the game to Tuesday. So I got one more practice, be twice as prepared with this new team. Play the game on Tuesday night.
Same offense that you ran in Carolina.
Yes, I was pretty familiar with it. I mean, it had been 4 years, but I was pretty familiar with most of what, everything Scott called, and all of that was familiar to me. So it was really just a matter of we were in Philadelphia. So the hardest part for me was learning my right guard's name to get him to look back for to call for the ball in silent count. Anyway, we ended up losing that game too, but it was a competitive game. I think we were down by 3 in the fourth quarter a couple times. Had a chance to win, ended up losing 27-17. So I stayed on with Washington the rest of the 2021 season, and finally we're wrapping up here. 2022, early in 2022, or in free agency. This was actually my first time going through free agency. Maybe we can get into a little more in-depth view of that down the road, but I ended up signing with the Raiders and then spent 3 weeks there, maybe 4, just workouts. And then they made a trade for Jarrett Stidham, who I had been in New England with. And I got released, was home all summer last year until Mac Jones got hurt in about week 4 last year, and the Patriots needed a backup quarterback. So I went and signed with the Pats, backed up Bailey Zappi for a couple games until Mac is healthy, stayed on the practice squad the rest of the year, and that brings us to now.
Present day.
Only took me
an hour.
45 minutes, I think.
Well, I told you mine was pretty simple, just up and down with one team and one college. Yours is how many? 10 total?
9 teams.
9 NFL teams.
9 teams, including 2 separate stints in Oakland, 2 separate stints in Carolina, and 3 separate stints in New England, and 3 stints in Oakland, technically,
and a stint in Orlando. You also played for Oakland and Las Vegas. Raiders.
Yep, I did. I've played for. This is my trivia question of the day. It's just more of a factoid, but I've played for a team that's no longer in the same city. I played for it when it was in both cities. I played for another team that's no longer in the same city, the Rams, who moved to LA. And then I've also played for a team that has changed names twice since I played for them.
Redskins
to the
team
football
Commanders.
Commanders, and now potentially back. I don't know.
Back to the Skins is the rumor I've heard.
Yeah, potentially, yeah.
Because apparently the Native American group that they used as leverage to change the name is come out and said that they never were mad about the name and actually liked the name. So now the new owner,
never been mad.
never been. Yeah.